Freya, thank you so much. We're here at the North American Vegetarian Conference, but I see you other times of the year. You're one of the busiest people I know as head of the American Vegan Society.
Yes.
Freya, you really picked up very quickly after your wonderful husband, the late Jay Dinshah, passed, and you were really, you were the supporter to him. You were never that involved with the business directly. Is that correct?
Well, I was very involved, but it was always what I could do to save Jay time so he could get on with the important things. But I've always been closely involved.
Well, we've heard the accent by now, so where were you born?
I was born in England, in Epsom, in England.
And when did you come to the United States?
I came when I was 18, and Jay and I had been corresponding, and I came to visit him.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history, yes.
Well, your headquarters is in Malaga, New Jersey.
Yes, Jay had founded the American Vegan Society in February of 1960. And I arrived in July of that year. So I've been in from the beginning, but I wasn't a co-founder.
Well, that might be up for some people's arguments, because we know it's really always the woman behind the man.
But I wasn't here to do that.
Okay, so you're very generous. But what you've done since is just phenomenal, because you not only run the organization, you have the magazine, American Vegan Magazine,
yes,
that comes out 3 or 4 times a year, depending.
What we can manage between the magazine and our website, we do the best we can.
Yes, and the website is?
AmericanVegan.org.
Yes. And it's getting more exciting all the time too, because you keep elevating, I think, what you're doing with that.
Yes.
So that's really something to continually look forward to. Then you also have a real bookstore on the property.
We do.
How many books do you sell? I mean, the titles.
How many titles? I have no idea. I'm thinking it's probably close to 1,000 by now. And in recent years, the number of new books coming out is phenomenal. It's very difficult to keep up with it. But I guess we have 1,000 titles.
Well, in the beginning, it was hard to find a vegan book.
Yes,
you produced one of the first ones.
Yes, I did. I produced the first cookbook that had vegan in the title. And, well, the first one in this country, in America.
And can it still be purchased?
It can be, yes.
The title?
Yes, The Vegan Kitchen.
And you can get that by going onto your website and then looking for the books that you sell. Mm-hmm. That's fabulous. And then also you create special events. I know one always happens usually over Memorial Day, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have our annual meeting and a garden party on the Memorial Weekend Sunday. And that's been regular for the last 10 years. Prior to that, with Jay, we used to do conferences in cities around the country, and I haven't been able to do so much of that lately.
And then, in addition to that, you do tabling a lot. How many locations do you, and what kind of places do you go?
We go to vegetarian fairs. For instance, recently we were in Richmond, Virginia, and we're considering going up to Albany, New York, which will be in early October, I believe. We table in New York City and Philadelphia, and we're strategically pretty well located to cover quite a number of events.
Well, I was privileged to participate with the one in the Philadelphia Library.
Yes, Philadelphia Free Public Library Book Fair. That was a great event.
Yes, fabulous.
And the Collingswood Book Fair, which was a really marvelous event with which brings people who love books. And all up and down the main street.
The main street. It's just they've set up tents straight down the middle line. It's just wonderful. It is. It's fabulous. I would like to talk a little bit further though about what you found when you first began doing your food demos and writing that first book, when there weren't a whole lot even in the United States at that time. What did you find most people wanted to know when they were starting out?
Well, the main thing we wanted to impress on people was the variety of food there is to eat as a vegan. Jay had a list, a vegan variety, listing all kinds of fruits, vegetables, innumerable beans, peas and lentils, the legume group, and all the different grains, the fundamental basis of vegan eating. And then, of course, there's always the factor of the things you're giving up that people are going to miss. And in those days, you couldn't go to the supermarket and buy soy milk or almond milk. You had to make it yourself.
Oh, yes.
And some of our early experiments weren't so palatable, but we learned how to make them nicely. Almond milk was a particular favorite that we made. And sesame milk, I would make a sesame milk or a sesame soy milk, which was sweetened with dates, and that was very good. At one time at our headquarters, we had a number of interns, and I would make a gallon of sesame milk in the morning because we had 12 to 16 people who wanted breakfast.
How do you make that?
Soak the sesame seeds overnight, rinse them off, put them in the blender with water and some soy powder, which is the pre-cooked instant soy, and the dates for sweetening or whatever else you want to use for sweetening, and blend it. If you want to, you can add some vanilla. Sometimes we did that by putting in a vanilla bean, which we have slit, and just put it in the bottle of sesame soy milk. And it keeps in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 days.
Oh, it sounds delicious, because I've heard of doing it with almonds and
Yes.
other nuts, but I never heard of doing it with sesame seeds.
Oh yes. Well, we used sesame because they're such a great source of calcium. And the doctor that we were consulting way back when Anne was a baby, who tested their blood and found things in normal levels, but some things she thought could be a little better. So she put us onto using sesame milk as part of what Anne ate. Of course, she was more than a year old at that time. I breastfed her for a full year. And made sure that they had good raw vegetables like spinach and parsley and so on, along with carrots. And so the calcium and iron levels were excellent. And she also said that the exercise opportunities that we gave the children were very important, and it showed in their development and how well they did.
I'm still stuck on the sesame milk.
There's some.
So then you just add water to the sesame seeds and
Yes.
the protein or the soy powder.
Yeah. First
and
of all,
the dates
we soak the sesame seeds overnight. Then we drain off the water. Then we put them in the blender with fresh water. And add the soy powder, add the chopped dates, and then blend it. And the proportions are a little bit casual about, but more you get a thicker milk or less. Anyway, after blending it for a while, so it's really well blended and nice and smooth, then we pour it into a quart jar and top it up with water. And that's how it worked.
I'm going home to do that right away. In raising vegan children, you have a son and a daughter, and now the grandson. How have you found, well, actually, how long have you been vegan?
Well, I've been a vegan for 52 years. I've always been vegetarian because my parents had decided to be vegetarian. But when I was a child, I used to eat eggs and milk and cheese. A lot of cheese, too much cheese.
So, what did you feed the children? I mean, because sometimes it's really hard when they go out and see other children and they play in other houses, and they see how other people eat. And I don't mean to say other people. Let's hope that everybody will be eating the way we, as the other people, will eventually. But
well, we like to imitate to some extent what the average person would eat. So we make our own vegan burgers out of beans and grains and vegetables. And I would make a batch of burgers, and we'd eat some when I made them, but I would always make enough so they were extra, so I could freeze the burgers. And then when it came time to making the lunch for them to take to school, I could put the frozen burger in the middle of the sandwich with lettuce, tomato, and whatever I spread on it. And that helps keep it cool until lunchtime, and then it's thawed out just right for them to eat at lunchtime.
that's amazing. And so, well, first of all, it doesn't spoil as fast anyway because it's not decaying flesh, but it still it would just be pretty, and then it would keep the other items like lettuce or something on the sandwich crisp.
Yes.
So many people will talk about when they're first starting, well, where do you get your calcium? Where do you get your protein? And of course, those of us who have been vegan for such a long time, we get so tired answering that question.
Yes.
But it's still, let's be blessed that they're asking.
Yes.
Because that shows an interest, and if they could solve those two issues, they might think about.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, people think that if we're vegetarians or vegans, we're only eating vegetables. So they think we're limited to carrots and broccoli.
Right.
But there's a lot more than that. And what we have to educate people about is the tremendous value there is in legumes, the peas, beans and lentils. They're a great source of protein. They also have their carbohydrate. And they are listed as a meat alternate in the USDA guidelines. So that is the protein source for vegetarians and vegans.
Yeah.
And then what are we going to use for fats? Because we need some source of fat in the diet. So nuts and seeds complement the legumes very well. And you have that sort of combination in things like hummus, which is the chickpea or garbanzo bean and tahini combination, which has lemon juice and onion and garlic or roasted pepper flavorings to it. So, hummus is a great item to turn people on to.
And it's also good to transport, to snack on, to use as a sandwich spread. There's so many ways to use it.
Yes, indeed.
Or even as a dip with some crackers.
Yes. And as vegans, we've learned how to make our own cheeses and to make our own pizzas topped with cheese. So our repertoire has always been good. But it's becoming, because of commercial products, more available and accessible to people who are not going to spend a lot of time in the kitchen cooking and making things from scratch.
When you travel, I know that when I see you showing up at these tabling events, you usually have food with you. And the last time you had some freshly baked bread, and I think you had a potato spread of some sort, of sweet potato spread?
Yes, I think I had mashed up some cooked sweet potato with almond butter, and so we spread that on bread, and that was a good item to have.
And you could put it on very thickly.
You could, yes, pile it on.
Mentioning sweet potatoes, it seems to have so many praises over the white potato.
It does, yes.
Could you address that a little bit?
Well, I'm still very fond of white potatoes.
Me too.
I don't think they're as bad as they're made out to be if overall your diet is wholesome.
Yes.
But the sweet potato is supposed to take longer to get into the system, which is a factor that's important to some people who have problems with metabolism, if they're diabetic inclined or something of that sort.
How do you see the American Vegan Society going forward? Continuing as you are is quite enough, but people are always wondering how many vegans are there, and it's such a small niche market. When people look at it from a marketing standpoint, many times restaurants don't feel it's worth it because, well, there's only so many vegans.
Yes.
What is your not only argument for that, but what do you see for the future of plant eating?
Well, there's a lot more interest in veganism, and more prominent people are trying it out, as we know these days. And there's also a lot of praise for it. But we need a lot more how-to information. So I was talking to a girl in the cafeteria today who's going to school to study nutrition and become a registered dietitian. And I told her that there would be a lot of opportunities for her, I would think. And as an example, I talked about a member of our Council of Trustees for American Vegan Society, Dr. Andy Morris, who recently had to be in hospital for an operation. And so he asked about what food would be available ahead of time. And what they had to offer was very limited. So he went over the possibilities with the Director of Food Service, who was happy to get and have on hand things that Andy suggested. And he said we have a real need for registered dietitians who are available to counsel the hospitals and many other places that need to be able to cater to vegans and improve the nutritional status of what they offer the rest of their population that comes into their facilities. Also, it's important that chefs learn how to cook vegan. There's a growing demand, and we've been seeing that people are asking for it, and we've been to cooking schools. There's an Academy of Culinary Arts not far from us, and we've booked vegan dinners, which has given them the opportunity to learn about vegan food, which was a bit intimidating at first, but they found it fun and been very creative with it. And as a result, we see these young student chefs who will go out into the workplace and run their own restaurants or whatever, and at least know that vegans need to be catered to. And if vegans are catered to, many more people will try it. We found many people go to these dinners who aren't vegan, they're not vegetarian, they're just regular people who are interested, and they're very impressed with what can be done in the field of vegan catering.
Because a good meal is a good meal.
Yes.
You know, it is very, very exciting time to be in this arena, because there is a growing need not only for
Yes.
our health but for our planet and for the health of the animals. It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Freya.
Oh, you're welcome, Linda.